Welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast, where we talk about fitness, health, and anything to help you become the most optimal human beings. Let's dive into it.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Jerred Moon here from Garage Gym Athlete, and it is just me today. I'm going to be talking about energy systems. So we've been covering energy systems on the channel, some basic programming frameworks of how you can think about these things. So it's both on the YouTube channel and on the podcast. You guys have probably heard these episodes, and we're really big on energy systems in our programming. We've also gone over some month-long templates, week-long templates, and things that you want to consider when you're programming energy systems. But to be honest, with some of the questions that we get and things that we've done, I feel like I don't want to say jump the gun because that information is helpful to a lot of people, but I think that we need to kind of start with a foundational framework of why energy systems, because I feel like energy systems, when we're talking about, basically any other sport, um, like sprinting or football, lacrosse, bodybuilding, energy systems, all these things, it just makes a ton of sense, just logical sense. And that's what I want to appeal to today, is just the logic side of it, not as much the science side of it. And then how this logical framework can be applied to things that aren't a monostructural activity. So monostructural being you're on a bike, you are running, you are on a rower. It's like one modality, right? When we get into mixed modalities, so you could think of a CrossFit style workout, or any kind of circuit training, or things that involve multiple different, again, modalities or domains, and you're doing these things for time, you're doing them in interval sessions or whatever. We all of a sudden, and when I say we, I mean like the collective fitness industry kind of loses their mind about how these things have always worked, how they should work, and what we should be doing and why it makes a ton of sense, but people don't quite understand it. And it's kind of an argument for why we shouldn't be doing high intensity all the time, why all these other things make a lot of sense. So I'm just going to walk you through a couple of examples, and by the end of it, it should make sense. So let's take sprinting, for example. So if you wanted to be a better sprinter, and I'm going to give very base level, programming examples here, but say you wanted to improve your 400. Let's say your aerobic base is good, your overall sprint speed is good, but you just need some actual practice on running and executing 400 at race speed. And so the workout we have today would be a 4 by 400 meter training session, right? And again, it's probably not enough volume to truly move an elite athlete forward, but this is just an example. So workout today, imagine yourself, you're getting to the track, and all I need you to accomplish is sprinting at full speed, 400 meters, 4 different times. You're only doing 1 mile worth of work today. But I think you could agree, and I could agree, that you could make that 1 mile worth of work. Let's say you're doing those all sub 60, the 4 minutes worth of work, absolutely painful. You can make this a horrible workout, right? Lungs on fire, legs burning, just bad. And it's what's needed though to move forward. Now, when we go into that domain, so we got a 4 by 400, and I need to increase your speed. Well, why not? And now these are just like to get you thinking and how to apply energy systems to other things. If we're doing a 4 by 400, there are a lot of implied things there. Like one, like I mentioned, I'm going to need you to go really fast. Okay, I need you to go really fast every 400 meter lap because we don't have a lot of volume here, so I'm going to need you to go fast, max intensity here. The other implied thing is that I'm going to give you plenty of rest in between each 400 bout, because I need you to recover fully to be able to give me that max intensity each time. And these things they make sense to you. Like, this just makes perfect sense. You hear me saying, and you're like, yeah, this is all like no crap. Like, that's how you would do it. And so my question, kind of tongue in cheek here, is like, why not just do the same workload all at once? If we're only sprinting 1,600 meters worth of distance today, why can't I just have you go run 1,600 meters one time, knock it out, and then you'll be better at the 400, right? We're doing the same amount of volume. So why does it really matter? And the answer is intensity. The intensity is not there. It's not actually possible for most people to run 400-meter speed for 1,600 meters, unless you're like elite level miler or something like that. And so that makes a lot of sense, right? That's the reason you wouldn't just go do that. You're not able to keep the intensity up that's needed. And even if you did go as fast as you can, I'm like, I want you to burn it to the ground with 1,600 meters. You wouldn't be able to do it, right? And this is where energy systems come into play, right? They're not working. They don't work in those different domains. They work differently. You're utilizing different energy systems to execute. So you're going to need to train different energy systems to get better at them. And so you wouldn't do that. And so you can't cheat these energy systems. You can't shorten the rest times and not recover properly and still get the same benefit of the training. And when you start to cheat those things, you start to truncate the rest times, or you lower the intensity in the work that you're actually putting in, both are cheating proper energy system training. You're no longer actually running very effective training. You're running mental toughness practice. And I don't necessarily have a problem with that because we're still burning calories, we're still sweating, we're still exercising. Sure, we can argue that mental toughness practice through physical fitness is a good idea. Every training session, probably not. But you're no longer moving the needle forward. And just real quick, one other thing, like bodybuilding, for an example, or just strength training. If I had this entire workout for you to do, 5 different exercises, 3 sets of 10 each one, we're doing 150 reps for the day. Well, and it's all for your legs. Why not just do 150 squats all at once, call it good, and leave? And I think you very easily would know that wouldn't work either, right? You can't just go do 150 squats and call it good and expect to continue to get better because the intensity is not there, the load's not there, the rest time to be able to properly execute every single one of those reps, that's not there, the recovery is not there. None of those things are there. All of these things make perfect sense in our brains. We're like, yeah, if you're training for sprinting, that makes sense. If you're, training for a marathon, that makes sense. If you are trying to get stronger or build muscle, it makes sense. It makes sense. I could have you agree with me from a logical standpoint that all these things make sense because it's how the human body operates and it's how we've operated, coaches have operated at elite levels for a very long time. But once we throw in mixed modality training, that for some reason has been thrown out the window by most coaches. And I'm not just talking about CrossFit because CrossFit has a bunch of different ways that they program. But I'm saying when we have, calisthenics back to back with running, or you do have a barbell and a bodyweight movement or monostructural activity. When you're starting to piece these things together, you're doing mixed modality training. For some people, that's CrossFit. For some people, that's just trying to get better at their job. And the reason I don't like to just call it CrossFit is because CrossFit has a definition: high intensity functional movement performed, or constantly varied functional movement performed at high intensity. And that's not what everyone's doing. Sometimes you're just trying to put mixed modalities together because maybe you're in the military or special operations, or you're a police officer, firefighter, and you just actually have a job where you operate in mixed modalities. So you also train that way. And I think life is a lot like that. Even if you aren't, military, law enforcement, EMT, any of those things, I think that life is just that way. We typically have to go into multiple different situations. There are mixed modalities involved. All these things are very important. And so when you're starting to program these things, and this is kind of where I think that we need to start looking at it as an industry, and something that we do look at Garage Gym Athlete, is why are people not building in rest times with mixed modality training? It makes a lot of sense to build in a set amount of work and then a rest time to get better at it. Like, why on earth is there a 30-minute Metcon programmed by anyone, or a 50-minute Metcon programmed by anyone? And the answer is workload and intensity have to match. So if your expectation is high intensity 30 minutes, it's an impossibility. The programming isn't functional. Now, we program stuff we call mixed modal aerobic, where we might have somebody do 30, 40, 50 minutes, but we're looking just for sustained effort, maybe at a given heart rate or intensity. And these are the things that we should be shooting for in your programming, and things that you should be thinking about when you're programming energy systems or looking at them. It's okay to rest between rounds, whether it's programmed or not programmed, because that's how life works. That's how energy systems work, and that's how you're going to get better at it. So don't always run your head into the wall. This is my major takeaway for executing your programming, whether we wrote it, someone else wrote it, we briefed it, or whatever. Take the breaks in between if you're going really high intensity. There's not a lot of value in getting to zone 5 max heart rate and then just keep trying to push it. Your form's going down, like your intervals, sustainability and repeatability are no longer there. All these things are just no longer a part of your training. You are no longer training. And I want to bring that to everyone's attention, because it can happen in our programming too. We don't program that way, but our athletes can execute improperly if we haven't briefed it the right way, or if maybe they skipped the brief, which happens a lot of times. So you want to be looking for this sustainability and repeatability in your programming, no matter what you're doing. And that's the ultimate thing that you should be looking at in energy systems. And like I gave you those examples in bodybuilding and sprint training, it makes perfect sense to you. But the second we go mixed modality, for some reason, everyone throws it out the window. Like, it's okay to operate at these max intensities without rest periods, or, these unrealistic expectations. And I don't have those expectations of anybody in Garage Gym Athlete. And if you're executing energy systems, that shouldn't be the expectation for yourself. So do go into training sessions knowing, hey, this is 30 minutes worth of work. There are multiple rounds. I'm going to be looking at my stopwatch. I'm going to try and set a pace that I can sustain for the entire duration. And if I'm repeating the rounds, I want my times to be close to one another. So if that round took me 3.5 minutes, I want the next round to take me somewhere between, 3.5, 340, some fall off, but that sustainability and repeatability are going to be the biggest things in the execution and in the programming. So that's kind of the conceptual look at energy systems. I think it makes sense for everybody everywhere. Everyone understands it at a conceptual level, but we start to lose it once we get into mixed modality training. And I think mixed modality training is very important for a lot of people. Like I said, it's how life works, but ultimately you need to be very cognizant about how you're executing on a daily basis if you're an athlete, if you want to continue to see a result. High intensity, running yourself into a wall each and every single day are not beneficial. They will not get you results other than sweating and some calories burned. And you might be like, well, that's all I'm looking for. Well, there are some downsides to it too. And we've talked about this a lot on the podcast, but too much high intensity can come with a lot of its own problems. So I'm not going to hash those all out now, but do think about how you're executing your training, how you're executing our programming if you're doing it. And if you're writing programming, think about how you're writing and how you would want your athletes to execute. So that's it for this one, guys. If you're on the podcast, we would love a share, share it with a friend or family member. If you find any of this information beneficial. And if you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. We have more stuff coming out all the time, and we really appreciate it, guys. But that's it for today. Thanks for watching or listening. Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.